Hey guys, I have a TFL truck exclusive for you. An inside look at the Bollinger electric truck design and production facility here in the Detroit, Michigan area. They're working on two production level prototypes, the four-door SUV, the B1, and the four-door pickup truck, the B2. In this video, I'll show you all the details about the new production prototypes. I'm going to speak to the CEO, Robert Bollinger, some of the engineers, and actually go for a ride in the prototype, the two-door truck. What I think you're looking at here is kind of the future of the heavy-duty truck, because, well, let me show you the pickup right here, B2. Don't look at the SUV quite yet. So here it is, the B2 pickup truck. This is a production-based prototype, and this is an active production space. The guys are working around the clock almost to get these done for September unveiling. And the size of the truck is, I think, the interesting part. Let me show you. So it's sitting here on a jig, and the wheelbase on the pickup truck is actually 20 inches longer when you compare it to the four-door SUV. And it reminds me a little bit of the Jeep Gladiator, but the Gladiator is more of a mid-size truck. What this is a full-size truck because it's much wider, and I'll show you in the bed right here. Between the wheel wells in the bed, it's about 49 inches. So you can put a 4x8 plywood or a sheet of plywood in the bed, and it will have a mid-gate. And here's how it will work. As you can see, the entire structure is aluminum, and this is the C-pillar. And everything from the C-pillar forward is shared with the four-door SUV. Of course, this is a pickup truck, much longer wheelbase, and it's going to have a mid-gate. Very similar concept to the Chevy Avalanche, but the glass partition will be here, and it'll actually fold open, fold up like on the SUV. And the metal mid-gate will fold down, and it will lay down in line with this bed partition here. So it's going to make a flat floor where you can load cargo, material, 4x8 pieces of plywood, anything you want. So that's a pretty neat design. It's also a 6-foot long bed, not like a short 5-foot bed. So you can put 6-foot long items in here, or you can fold the midgate and put much longer items inside the truck. The battery is basically mounted into the floor of the vehicle between the two axles. It's a dual motor setup, one electric motor in the front and one in the rear.
A lot's happened. We started right away on the next level prototypes, the four-door version of the B1 and the four-door B2.
Let's quickly walk around this two-door,
sure,
and then just kind of go inside and kind of show where you guys are going next.
Okay, great.
Talk to me about style, first of all.
Okay. Well, I studied industrial design, wanted to be a car designer and a car guy, whatever. So a lot of people, when they see it, they're like, oh, an industrial designer worked on that, because it's very like, you know, it's not car styling. It's more like form follows function, all those you know catchphrases people use. But basically what it is that it's the look of it is what I like and what I've always liked. I always like classic Broncos, classic internationals and stuff like that. So it was basically I wanted a vehicle that would be everlasting and have a classic style and never get old.
Okay.
Also, we wanted flat panels because we wanted to bend the metal ourselves. So we wanted to be able to really build the whole truck ourselves with our own hands. It was hard to make it so simple and keep it like a simple form to the whole overall thing, because it can get out of control easily, and you start adding a lot of stuff to it. Our next prototypes that you'll see inside carry over almost all of the styling cues, same form. We've updated a few little things here and there, but inside all the components are brand new. So we have updated motors, updated inverters. We can tell you about that inside, but basically the vehicles have the same frunk space. The frunk space is actually a little bit bigger on the next prototypes. We still have the pass-through, of course, that we got to put a patent on. And so on the four-door, you can hold 13-foot boards through the middle with the gates closed, which is kind of longer than pickup trucks anyway, right?
Sure.
And then on the pickup truck version, we can hold 16-foot boards with the gates closed. And then, of course, with the tailgate down, you can 20 feet, 24 feet, whatever. So it's basically has crazy, cool, amazing storage capabilities on the top, and then it has amazing off-road capabilities that were built into it with the portal gear hubs and stuff like that, that are also carried into the next prototype. So that's our DNA. Our DNA is crazy good off-road capability, crazy good storage capability, class 3 truck. So if this comes in at 5,000 pounds, it can hold 5,000 pounds, which no other EV can do, obviously, and no EV coming out it can do. So it's amazing. So it'll be the only class 3 electric vehicle out there.
Overall, the chassis and design will remain mostly the same, but there's one visual difference that you will notice. The prototype, the two-door, has a radiator outlet on the side here in the fender. The new one has an outlet on the top and a big inlet in the front around the headlights, and that was done for additional cooling, and also the bigger battery pack that's going to go into production B1 and B2 trucks.
Just imagine a full-size truck with heavy-duty payload capability that has up to 20 inches of ground clearance, four-wheel drive with a high-low transfer case, front and rear locking differentials, front and rear disconnecting sway bars, and a self-leveling suspension. Bollinger says there will be a provision for a winch. This, in fact, could be an electric Ram Power Wagon killer.
Our in-wheel geared hub. This is completely designed in-house by myself and Carl. It's a 4.34 inch center distance, which gives you that much extra ground clearance, as well as a 194:1 gear reduction ratio.
Okay.
So you'll get extra torque multiplication. Everything upstream of that is a lot lighter because of that. So this is the gear set here. It's a AGMA 12 quality ground helical reduction. It's a 2-inch face width. 6-pitch gear, 20-degree pressure angle, pretty standard dimensions, and this will handle all of the shock loading from wheel slip and rock crawling to yanking stumps. So we instrumented all 4 wheels with what's called wheel force transducers, and that senses force, torque, and acceleration and speed in 6 directions. Well, force and torque in 6 directions.
Sounds good. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew.
The suspension is a unique hydraulic design, and it's height adjustable. It's meant to ride at a 15 inches of ground clearance normally, for example on a highway, but you could also lower it to a 10-inch ground clearance level for entry and egress and loading, or lift it off-road to 20 inches of ground clearance. So there's 10 inches of range on this suspension. And of course, I want to drive it off-road, but that'll have to wait until a little bit later. Combined power output, according to Bollinger, is 614 horsepower, so there's a lot of juice there. It's a single gear, but there's a high and low range. So basically you could have high forward, low forward, high reverse, and low reverse. So really 4 settings for the transmission. It's an all-wheel drive system, so it's reacting to the traction capability of the vehicle. And on the pickup truck, up to 5,000 pounds of payload capability and around 7,500 pounds of maximum towing. So the towing number is not very high, but the payload is where it's at as far as Bollinger is concerned.
But what about towing? What are some of the challenging? Because 7,500 is kind of like a mid-sized truck level of currently of towing.
Yep.
What are some of the challenges there?
The main thing is cooling. So with an electric powertrain, is you're generating heat in the batteries and in the motors and the inverters, and there's a sort of a time limit of when you get to saturation on the temperature.
Okay.
So that really determines what your continuous power is, and continuous power is, if you're towing up, I-70 out of Denver, and you're pulling forever and ever and ever, you're just going to get into continuous power. Anything like short acceleration runs, that's peak power. So that thermal doesn't necessarily come into it, but on a long, sustained, almost like a dyno pull. Where you just pull, that becomes your limiting factor. How much heat can you get out of the system? And that's the balance of how much weight can you pull, how much power do you need in order to pull that, and then keeping it cool.
The front rear bumper design may change a little bit on the production units, but it's pretty neat. The hitch is actually hidden behind the license plate on this truck, And it is wired for a 7-pin connector, so it's pretty standard stuff, 2-inch receiver. Here it is, the black box. This is actually the casing for the battery for the Bollinger truck. And it's 120 kilowatt hours. And Bollinger states that it would give the truck and the SUV about 200 miles of range. It's not a lot of range because right now the Rivian R1T with the biggest battery option, which is 180 kilowatt hours, is claiming 400 miles of range, which is twice of the Bollinger. But let's talk to the expert and see exactly what the charging times are and how this battery works in the vehicle.
This particular variant is kind of a composite, some carbon fiber included here to kind of keep the weight down.
Okay.
And then we have multiple cooling plates, as you can tell, running this way.
And that's liquid cooled?
Yeah, it'll be water glycol coolant flowing through the pack.
Okay.
And then we put the battery modules on top of the cooling plates to kind of wick heat away during charging or discharging.
And this is the top of the battery and that's the bottom?
That's right,
okay.
That's right, yeah. And to recharge, actually, our vehicle's really well equipped in terms of options. So there's an included high-powered charger that also is an inverter, so you can put power in when you're charging, or you can take power out. Like if you want to be sort of out in a remote wilderness setting, you can
power tools.
You can get power tool power from the vehicle. You know, sort of a lot of small power inside the vehicle for like USB chargers, phone chargers, things like that. Even though it's a fairly simplistic vehicle, there's not a lot of screens and, you know, visible technology in the cabin. Like under the hood, you know, controlling the battery, controlling the electric motors, the gearbox, and even sort of the translation of like operator command from like accel pedal and brake pedal to like what torque gets delivered to the wheels. This is a pretty modern setup. And so we actually have 2 vehicle controllers that are identical and redundant, in part for safety. If one would fail, the other would detect it and we can take the appropriate actions.
And here it is, the 4-door B1 SUV. And it's neat to see it in the state actually because you can see some of the components on the inside. So there is, like I said, an electric motor in the rear and one in the front. And here in the rear you can see kind of an inboard brake solution with the brake caliper and the rotor. And the suspension is going to be hanging out here. So you do have some wheel articulation because the Bollinger SUV and truck, like Robert said, are meant to be an off-road vehicle as well. Very capable to get you to places off the beaten path. And behind me is kind of a chart which kind of looks like Lego set instruction to me. There's the main chassis and tunnel, then you have some additional components, then the main body frame, etc., etc., etc. And at the very end, of course, you get a 4-door SUV. Guys, here's the front electric motor assembly. It's pretty neat. So the electric motor itself is right here. That's a little bit over 300 horsepower just right here. It's very compact. Then you have some gear train to connect it to a high-low, basically a transfer case, which is here. Then it goes to the differential, which is here. It's selectable, locking differential, and the whole unit attaches to the chassis using several bolts on both sides and some other connections. But the inboard brakes are actually connected to the differential, and there's like a rubber isolator in the middle. So the whole unit can be lowered and lifted in, and this drive unit weighs about 300 pounds altogether in the front and about the same in the rear. It's pretty amazing how compact this is. So I'm here at a pretty cool moment because they're just about to marry the battery to the 4-door SUV chassis itself, and there's a lot of guys over there trying to make it just right. It's a fully road legal vehicle, right?
Right.
So how does the, because
you don't have provisions for like a airbag system, or
Right.
how does that work out?
Yeah, so we've been very honest from the very beginning. We don't have airbags. Class 3 vehicles, you can choose to either go down the airbag safety route or the seatbelt safety route. So you still have regulations for seatbelt safety. So we still have to do the crash test with the cab, if you will, and then we're doing a whole due diligence list of safety protocol of simulated crash testing, side pole, front, all that kind of stuff for occupant safety. Battery safety is a big thing too.
Okay.
So basically our trucks, even though they will fully be road legal as a class 3 vehicle, they're going to have a lot more safety features to them than the federal government requires. Is basically
For
what
the
it comes
class
to.
3.
For the class 3, yeah.
Okay.
So what does it mean to be a Class 3 classification truck? Well, it's based on the gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, of 10,001 pounds. And with that weight class, certain things change, like the safety requirements.
Kind of starting from the front and rear, there's a crash structure that bolts onto the chassis. So if you were to hit, say, run into a frontal barrier, that crash structure is engineered to reduce the impact to the driver. So there's what's called a VPI pulse, and that's what the occupant actually feels. So we do most of our work with that, and then the seatbelt does the rest of it.
I'm just over 6'2", and I'm sitting here in the driver seat, and there's plenty of space. I got a lot of legroom. Headroom is also plentiful, and the same will be true with the production versions of the truck. But what catches my eye the most is the simplicity of the interior and actually the column shifter. It's just basically classic design, but with modern technology behind it. I really like that. It's almost like a resto mod where you have a classic body, but modern powertrain. I really love this idea. The windows are of sliding design, and there's latches that lock the windows in a certain position, front and rear. So you have options on how you want to air out the vehicle while moving.
I asked to drive the B1 concept truck, but it's one-of-a-kind concept vehicle with many quirks, and it wasn't in the cards. Once Robert got it on the road, I was still able to get a quick first impression. It was like riding in a conventional SUV or truck. It has lots of visibility, lots of interior space, and a comfy suspension.
Yeah, so the whole design of the whole vehicle inside and out was all supposed to be one language and one thought. So the interior is just as clean and minimal as the outside. So we have round gauges, we have flat panels that you can unscrew yourself and put in. If you say you want to put in extra switches for extra lights that you have on it, you can do that. The left and right are a mirror of each other, so it's ready for right-hand drive. We got the air vent thing on top here, which is basically out of necessity because we couldn't fit the transfer box inside, and because we wanted to keep it clean and simple and not bunch it out. So we invented these, what we call machine guns. But so it's defroster vent, and,
That's kinda cool.
and then you can turn it completely off by turning it inside too. We still have the same thing inside on the next vehicles with the
The glass opening.
yeah, glass opening in the tailgate. And on the new ones, we have a easier dismantle system, if you will, for the rear glass. So again, all the glass will come off. On this prototype, the front windshield did not come off, but on the new ones they do. What's next is we will reveal the 4 doors in September, and then we'll have a price point, and then you'll be able to go on our website and put a deposit and make an actual pre-order. And we still have to announce that price point, so it's a whole big thing unto itself. So it's not a cheap vehicle, it has 6 gear boxes, 120 kilowatt hour pack. It's a lot going into this truck.
There is no truck for sale currently, but there's Rivian, Tesla's talking about it. There's Atlas, there's several other companies. Do you see a competitor? Are you targeting somebody, or are you just kind of doing your own thing? How does that work?
Right. Well, even the F-150 had something out the other day
Well, they
about
pulled the
electric.
train. They
Yeah,
pulled the
so
train.
I don't know where that's at in development, but we always knew there was going to be an electric F-150. We always knew there'd be other things out there.
Maybe GM is doing something,
Yeah.
right?
So from the very beginning, we just said, let's just do our own thing because we can't, I don't want to compete against a Ford F-150. That's not our thing. So we're going to have our own electric pickup truck and be in that segment, but ours will just be a completely different kind of animal. We'll have a different target audience, I believe. So I think ours will be, our trucks will just, with the 15-inch ground clearance alone, it'll be like, that's almost twice of what's anything on the road right now. So I think we're a much better truck out of the gate, and we're going to be different. You either love it or you hate it. If you love it, hopefully you buy it. If you hate it, there'll be other trucks you can go buy, and I'm totally cool with that. But we don't plan on being 1 million vehicles a year or anything like that. So we'll have our own niche of enthusiasts and people who love us, and that's great for us.
Okay, and so availability is at end of 2020, or what have you announced?
End of 2020 is when we'll be ramping up the production, and then the actual ones off the line for sale mostly in 2021.
So it appears that Bollinger is making progress along the way to production. Robert told me that first customer trucks will arrive in early 2021. And of course, stay tuned to tfltruck.com for a lot more coverage, not just on Bollinger, but all the other electrified trucks coming out, including the Ford F-150 hybrid and the all-electric truck as well.